So many people just negate this and they're like, it's not important. I've done it. And I think premarital counseling it teaches you so many different ways of how to communicate with each other, especially because most of us as people of color didn't learn this growing up. We don't have a background, majority of us, in how to have healthy communication in the household, right? So yes, maybe a few of us were blessed enough to have both parents, but the majority of us was not. So if it's not one of you, both of you need to learn how to have healthy communication skills and then how to communicate with each other.
We don't trust you with our feelings. We don't trust you not to do it. It happens with such laser precision efficiency that we just like we will let things that actually need to be talked about, things that need to be processed, just kind of fall by the way. Like, I ain't for it tonight. I had a long day at work. This should be addressed. I just put that on the shelf of things that need to be addressed, but I don't want gaslit. That's how men feel. That's how we learn to shut down.
We'll never get nowhere pointing the finger. We'll never get nowhere pointing the finger. And because we are in this space, I'm pretty sure most of you guys probably thought that we was talking about the gender war, right? But we're not talking about the gender war. We are talking about in relationships. And I do have a clip to support what we're going to be discussing. So, everything okay, Kelly? We need to get HR involved.
No, you said it's not gender war, it's relationships. I was wondering if that's not like related.
That's gender war junior, gender war light.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like a light beer. It's not a full beer.
Yeah.
I
Not talking to all women. You're talking to your woman. It's just a little difference.
Gotcha.
Well, thank you, my fellow Nigerian brother.
Yeah. You are welcome. Hey, you are welcome.
All right, y'all. Here's the clip.
Hold on. If I'm talking to you about an issue I have, let's address that issue. Don't deflect by saying, and what about you? We can't get nowhere pointing the fingers with no solutions. Let me get mine out and we fix that. Then you get yours out and we fix that issue. But bringing up something you could have been spoke on only because I spoke on something, let me know you was holding what you had as ammo.
When I saw this, I thought this was very important, seeing how this is the solution, right? How many times do we see so often when we have these conversations and the focus should be on great communication? But unfortunately, in the relationships of today, not yesterday, but today, we often run into this problem where the issue is not getting resolved. There are a lot of things that are coming in between for you guys to resolve whatever issue it may be. So I thought this was a very important topic to discuss. I do want to get you guys' thoughts. Don't think because you see two men up here that we're going to back down. We're going to be able to speak up and speak loud. That's what we do.
Is that what you thought when you saw the video?
That's what I thought.
I thought he was one of Santa's helpers.
What?
Mike, they're trying to derail the conversation already. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go to Queen Sheba first. Go ahead and shed a little bit of light on this.
Listen, I'm very shocked for a young man of that age to be able to bring that level of just wow to the conversation. He's absolutely correct. The only thing I want to correct you on, Lapeef, is that you said in these days. That's occurred from grandma to here to now. And my grandma used to call it tit for tat. We're not going to go tit for tat, that's where I find the courage to come to you. And then you say, well, now that you say it, I have a problem with you. And I think he makes absolute sense in a relationship. If your partner, if your wife, if your girlfriend, if you're whoever, your man, your daughter, your son has found the courage to come to you to say, here's what I'm faced with. Here's what it's like dealing with you on a day-to-day basis. That's their space. That's their time. Let them have that moment. And once you're able to process that and tell them or share with them what you've heard, and they feel, okay, seen, valued, heard. And then if they say, is there anything you want to offer to me by way of feedback? Then you sound off. But I think we got that real bad. And I think it's a defense mechanism. And I've seen it a lot in men. Uh-oh, they look, and men, let me tell you why. Men don't normally initiate tough topics about women because most men feel like women can't handle the truth, which is probably true in most cases. But since you're talking about it, most men will say, now that you say that, you're not all that anyway, or you're not da 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 da, and you did that. That's what I, as a married woman, right? I'm not talking no boyfriend, girlfriend stuff. I'm talking about when a man becomes very comfortable with you and when a man really loves you and he doesn't want to hurt you. Most men don't initiate uncomfortable conversations with women unless you initiate them first. So that's my 10 cents on that.
That's interesting. B. Taylor, we'll go to you next. What are your thoughts about this?
I immediately thought about the black parent dynamic with their children. Like, how many of us have came to like our mom and told her something that she has probably done to hurt us, and they like deflect back and what we didn't do and why they act like it's like no accountability, right? And then we take that same like dynamic and put that into a relationship. And it's people that I find that do that is because they feel attacked. They're like, oh, you want to come to me about all these issues you have about me? Well, let me tell you about issues that I have about you as well. And they feel like that's the time to bring it up. And like, it's not just like Queen Sheba said, like, you know, hear them out, listen to what they have to say. Like, if you didn't say it then, don't wait until there's an argument, because now it is a tit for tat. You're talking about, oh, you don't never clean up. Well, you don't clean up the bathroom. Well, you don't wash dishes. Like, it's like a tit for tat, like, and y'all are not going to get anywhere. Like, let's find a solution of like what the problem is. But if I brought it to you first and you didn't say nothing first, don't bring it up now. Let me say something, because I'm the one that came to you about the problem that I had. So let me speak my piece and let me talk. And I find that men do this too, because like Queen Sheba said, they'll be quiet. They don't want to come to you and tell you when they got no issues with you. But as soon as you get the that's when they want to start pulling out stuff and like, oh, you ain't never say this, and then now you feel attacked. So now you're like, oh, okay, well, since you're going to bring up what happened January 1st, then I'm going to bring up what happened October 27th. So it's just like a back and forth between y'all. And you're right. Like, if you didn't bring it up first, then let that other person speak their piece and hear them out. And if you want to bring something to them, wait, write it down, and come to them at a time where y'all are not both arguing and getting into it.
I agree with that. I think in this generation we do lack proper communication. And I think communication is listening to a person, understanding what they're saying, and then responding to what they were saying instead of reacting. Respond. I like to know what a man thinks. I don't take it as a constructive criticism. I like to understand, like, what, because I feel like men don't usually express themselves. They'll more often shut down and they won't tell you what they're thinking. They'll just be like, okay, that's fine, it's cool, whatever, you know. But when they're actually explaining, it's like, I was like, okay, you're talking. That's how you feel. That's what you want. That's what you see. Okay, now that I know, I can make adjustments to fix that. But if a lot of men don't take the time to express it, so when they do talk, I want to listen. I want to hear it, and I want to be able to like kind of do like a course adjustment. And I like the gentleman I'm dating now. For those of you who know, you know. If you don't, well, whatever. He brought up this this activity that you're supposed to do on a daily basis every evening. It's called team. So you're supposed to, T is touch. So even if you're mad, you're supposed to touch. So like the lady explained, like even if you're angry, like you do like an ET touch, where you're supposed to touch even if you're mad at each other. And then E is educate. So you let them know like something you learned that day. A is appreciate. You let them know something you appreciate about them. And you can't do the same thing every single day. It has to be something new. And M is metrics. So team, TEAM. And metrics is you let them know the thing that they did that bothered you. That way you don't attack them. As soon as you're angry, you have a time to relax and come to them when you're not angry or not upset, and talk to them later in the evening. You do this before you go to bed every day. So I thought that was really cool to implement that, so that you will have a chance to talk and come to some type of agreement at the end of the evening. So
That sounds good. Well, I wanted to say that that's a great technique, actually, Kelly. I've heard of it before, and some people say it's 10 minutes, some people say it's 5 minutes, but I think you can adjust it according to your team, right? So that's the good thing. But I wanted to say that I think the thing that doesn't help at all is that we always vent when we're angry. We don't say the things that bother us when everything at school, oh, you didn't have to react that way. Or it's always when we're like, it's just an explosion. We just let it out until like we can't hold it anymore. And that's the biggest issue, because I have no problem in someone telling him, why do you don't have to react that way, or, or something immediately. You can address it immediately too, and not hold it in, because that's a problem. At the end of the day, you're just accumulating things, and then eventually it's going to come out, and it doesn't come out nice. Definitely doesn't. And I learned that with my siblings, because I used to hold a lot of things, and I never complained with my dad until like I was done. I was like, get there doing this and this and that. And then my dad is like, oh, I didn't know that you were feeling this way. So I think that's the worst part when it comes to, us communicating with other people, the things that we don't like.
Sire, I got a question for you. I think you made a good point when you said people often bring up issues when they're venting. What if, how can I say this? Sometimes they're not venting, but when they bring the issue up, it just reminds that person of the moment that whatever happened, right? So, like, what advice would you give somebody, in your opinion, to not allow whatever the issue was to become a problem when you guys are communicating? So let's say you're doing team, and they may not necessarily been thinking about what the problem was, but now that they're hearing it right now, it just takes them back to that place. So what advice would you give somebody in order to ensure that doesn't happen?
So when we do coaching with people, we usually tend to say one positive thing about them first. Always. You always say what they did good. And then if you were, and you kind of put the example, whatever happened, the situation, if I would have done that to you, how would that make you feel? Because that right there, you're not pointing at fingers. You're actually making them see the issue or the problem, and making them to empathize with the situation. And they will notice, oh yeah, that wasn't good, right? So that's a technique. That's, something that you could try, you could do. It doesn't work with everybody, especially if they're in defense mode. You're gonna have to be like, watch your tone, and like, it's not an argument, because that's the thing. Like, you cannot make it an argument. You have to say, no, it's just a conversation, like something that we can improve. Is there something that I can improve? And you always make it look like I would like to improve this, but then put it like the other person has to take responsibility. That's kind of like, a coaching technique.
All right, Balance, you want to go ahead and chime on this? We'll never get nowhere pointing the finger.
This was a really good topic, because I used to be really guilty of doing this in my relationship. Like, I was always the tit for tat person. I'm like, wait, but you did this, and we're going to talk about it. And it's like, but that's not what we're talking about right now. So I am a huge advocate of premarital counseling. So many people just negate this, and they're like, it's not important. I've done it. And I think premarital counseling it teaches you so many different ways of how to communicate with each other, especially because most of us as people of color didn't learn this growing up. We don't have a background, majority of us, in how to have healthy communication in the household, right? So yes, maybe a few of us were blessed enough to have both parents, but the majority of us was not. So if it's not one of you, both of you need to learn how to have healthy communication skills, and then how to communicate with each other, because you can have different communication styles. And when people are upset, they react differently. Some people, they react instead of respond. They it's the fight or flight. It's so many different things that could happen when it comes to communication. So I think you guys should go to a professional to learn how to effectively communicate if it's an issue in your relationships. And we do know that communication tends to be an issue in a lot of relationships. So I had to learn it, and it changed me for the better. So I suggest it to everyone. That's a good topic.
I got a follow-up question for you, Balance.
Yeah.
So I know you heard in the spaces where there's some people that don't believe in counsel, right? And especially like, imagine yourself going to a counselor or a professional to seek marriage advice and they're not married. Like, how do you respond to that?
I would say always go to the one with the experience. If you have a choice between a married counselor and someone who's not married, choose the person who's married, who has the personal experience. I think you should go with them. So that's how I would respond.
I would,
But you don't know what their marriage looked like.
yeah,
That's
I would
true
probably-
too.
yeah.
That's true too. You're never gonna know what someone's intimate relationship looks like. I still say choose somebody that has the experience of marriage over somebody who doesn't.
What do you say about somebody that's been divorced?
And they're currently divorced.
They got divorced and like they just got divorced like years ago.
People get divorced all the time and get remarried. So if you have a choice between a divorce counselor and a married counselor, and you're going there for marriage counseling, marriage counselor that is married.
I agree with that. I know my father, before he would marry anyone, because he was a pastor, licensed minister, obviously. Before he would marry anyone, he required they do 3 months of marriage counseling before he would marry them. He wouldn't marry them without doing that with them first.
So marriage would not be a primary indicator for me based on who I listen to and based on who I don't. I'm married. There was one time I wasn't married. You get what I'm saying? So I feel like I've been on both sides of the fence to be able to assess that wise people can come from all walks of life. You can have a single woman that's a great communicator that can drop some knowledge to you about communication and how to communicate with your man, and she may not have ever been married, and it does not disqualify her. You can have a married woman that's just as ignorant as all outdoors, and you're looking at her like, girl, I wouldn't listen to you if somebody paid me to. So I think when I think about who I would go to, the Bible says a wise man seeks wise counsel. He didn't say married counsel. He said wise. So wise is a huge factor for me with who I seek, right? Whether it's a man or woman. And I think you said the fact of it is experience, wise experience, right? Because sometimes you can be in something and you could completely be doing it wrong and don't know until after the fact. If I knew then what I know now, I would have chose differently. So for me, based on what I would choose, there has to be some type of wise foundation, whether you're single or married as a man or woman. I'm not going to disqualify anybody on this panel or who I go to based on their relationship status, because there's a lot of heavy hitters that have never been married. There's a lot of heavy hitters that come by way of wisdom and knowledge, because if that's the case, probably half of this panel is disqualified to give information and become, tonight, right? I don't know who's married or who's single. I'm only going by some of you that I sat next to you, but I feel like along the way I picked up a lot of learning gems from all of you, right? And that whether you're married or not, that's not going to stop me from saying, "Damn, that was a good point tonight, or last week, or 3 weeks ago."
Trigger Mike, I'm sorry, Balance, were you done?
I was just gonna say, like, any profession or anything, I think you should go to the person who has the most experience in whatever that is. If we're thinking about just therapy, great. But if we're talking about marriage counseling, I think you should definitely go to the people who are married first. And that's like if you're getting a personal trainer. If after the one who they look and they do what they do. So I mean, to each his own. That's why we got a panel.
Real quick, JR. I work in the healthcare industry, and a lot of people don't go to therapy because there's not a lot of people. There's a lot of people that have been in the industry, but they're not African American. So we go by based on who's been in it along. And what I see from the data, and I'm a product developer for a healthcare industry, a lot of African Americans do not go to counseling because the people that give this type of therapeutic intervention have been in it for a long time, but they are not African American. And a lot of the African Americans that have been in the industry have been by way of the last 5 or 10 years. So a lot of African Americans deem them unqualified just based on your age, not your experience, because they feel like as a 40-something-year-old man or woman, you're not qualified. You're not experienced enough, right? So that's one of the issues that I'm trying to solve by way of what you say, balancing code. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm saying if we leverage that as who's qualified, that would disqualify a lot of African Americans off the jump based on the data and the problem that I try to solve by way of therapy and profession.
So
Were you gonna say something, Peter? I was just gonna say, like, I never said anything about disqualifying anybody. I said if you have a choice between married and unmarried, I will go for the married. But I respect everything you're saying.
So what was the question? The original question again?
The original question is, we'll never get nowhere pointing the finger.
Got you. I don't know how we got to marriage and family therapy, ladies. But all right, ladies. Y'all got to stop, because y'all know this one is about y'all. Because we can't change the narrative. When yesterday the narrative was men don't talk at all. Men hold all their feelings in. And now all of a sudden we're throwing it right back at you. No. We got to be careful how we switch those narratives. This is 99.9% y'all thing. Y'all know it. We holding an accountability forum tonight. When it comes to pointing the finger, immediately after, that is a woman thing. And here's why we say it. Ladies, sincerely, when y'all say that men shut down and don't talk to you, this is why. This exact topic. We don't trust you with our feelings. We don't trust you not to do it. It happens with such laser precision efficiency that we just like, we will let things that actually need to be talked about, things that need to be processed, just kind of fall by the way. Like, I ain't for it tonight. I had a long day at work. This should be addressed. I just put that on the shelf of things that need to be addressed, but I don't want gaslit. That's how men feel. That's how we learn to shut down. All right. It's simply because we don't trust our woman enough to just say okay and listen. That is the modern woman's problem. Y'all know y'all own that one. That one's on y'all. It is written on your soul. And I think B. Taylor, you even touched on it. It was taught to you from your mothers doing it to you. You know, just on and on. Yeah. It's your mama. Your mama did it.
No,
that is the mama
her
thing.
mom's deceased, so I don't think she said.
I didn't say. I said that just you come to your parent in general, and I just said mother, but I mean fathers do it too.
Daddies. Like I said, 90. You're right. 0.01 daddies do that. That's not how we get down, and y'all know it. That is a mama thing. Think about it this way.
It's hard talking to dads
Hold on.
too.
Hold on.
My dad
Think
was
about
very
it this way.
active.
Think about it this way. Men are problem solvers, right? Or at least supposed to be.
Are y'all
problem solvers? I don't. Wait. Let me get my part out. Then we can go at it. All right. So think about it like this. Y'all heard about quiet quitting at work, where you're just so fed up with everything that's going on that you just do the minimum amount of work to stay there. This particular topic makes men quiet quit their marriage, quiet quit their relationship. All right. So I hear a lot about women saying men shut down. I feel like he left a long time ago. If you're just going to leave, then leave. This is where that really comes into play. We can't trust our women to just listen and say, okay. And I'm going to tell you right now, if we're talking about submission, all of these things that we talk about in these spaces, just try it out. Hold that urge back to just say something and be like, okay,